time has come, the prophecy fulfilled, the fires of judgment
is the book of Hebrews 6:17. Get right to the point, wherein the Heavenly Father, or God, which his name is Yahweh, his son's name is Yahweh Shai, wherein God willing more abundantly to show unto the heirs of promise. Who's that? That's the nation of Israel, beginning with the elect. The heirs of promise. Heir means someone who's set to inherit something. The first thing we're going to inherit, those of us that are part of the elect, is salvation by Yahweh Shai into those chariots. Then we're going to inherit those new bodies that the Apostle Paul talked about. As a matter of fact, the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15, we shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Like that, we're going to get these new indestructible bodies. In other words, we're never going to die. Death is going to be a thing of the past. So we're going to be like gods. Psalms 82:6. We're going to have godlike powers in the flesh. We're going to have godlike powers in the flesh. I just gave you a couple of examples of what we're set to inherit. That's why it says heirs of promise. So let's read it again. Wherein the Heavenly Father willing more abundantly to show unto the heirs of promise, and hopefully that's us, the immutability of his counsel. Now let's look up that word. That's a big word, man. Immutability. Let's define that word. Immutability comes from the word immutable. It says unchanging over time or unable to be changed. So the Heavenly Father's word is unable to be changed. It cannot change.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem Shai. All right. And what I want to get into with this lesson, is children of the heart, and speaking of 2/3 of our people, okay, who have, made themselves likened, okay, unto Edomite, in these times, through all these enchantments, okay, the witchcraft, the sorcery, this world, our people, have been likened, unto the enemy. They have fell in love, okay, with the harlot. They're children, they're a product of the harlot. When you go into it, the children of the harlot in the spirit, and when you go into Isaiah 57:3, okay, the Heavenly Father calls them out, and we was in the mix of this. Okay, we was once, children of the whore. You see, but the Wadi how about Shema Shai for pulling us out of darkness and bringing us into, this marvelous light, this truth, the right way. The Lord allowed us to be pleasing to Him, in these last days for the sake of salvation, and because we was caught up in the mix, and this is what we tell our people, and this is why daily warnings go out. Okay, that's why there's so much, that comes out to expose this devil and what this place is really about. Okay, because the Lord's hand is stretched out still, but we know that there's a just as there a predestined remnant. There's a predestined 2/3. You know, that would be enchanted. Okay, all the way up until the destruction. All right. So when you go to Isaiah 57:3, it says, "But draw near hither, ye sons of the sorcerers, the seed of the adulterer and the whore." Okay, so this is the Lord. He's calling all right these niggas close so he can all right curse their ass out, man. So he can rebuke their ass, man. Okay, and that's what the Lord has done by raising up the prophets. It's like He called them niggas close. Okay, to tell them about themselves, man. Okay, and it says you seed of the adulterer, okay, and the whore. You see, in this whore, all right, speaking of who? Okay, America, man, when you really get into it. Because America is described, all right, when you go to the book of Revelation, okay, chapter 17. All right, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 17, in verse 3. Okay, it says, "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns." So this woman that's sitting on this scarlet colored beast, okay, is America. Okay, when she rides or upon this beast system, okay, America has been the top government, the authority, okay, of this beast system. America, NATO, and the EU. Okay, and you go into the totality, of this beast, going into these 7 Edomite governments, these 7 heads, the French, all right, the Spanish, the British, okay, the Greeks, Germanium Major, Germanium Minor, okay, which America sprung out of the British, and also the Romans as well, and but America sprung out of the British, became a superpower, the whore that rided this beast. Okay, those 10 horns going to those 10 vassals, which today represent the EU. Okay, it says, "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and decked with gold. Yeah, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abomination and filthiness of her fornication, yeah, her ways, because that golden cup was full of wickedness, abomination. You know, and she was decked out. She was made to be alluring to the eye. Okay, just as the serpent, he painted a picture of Eve. It was good. It sounded good to the flesh. It was good to the eye. Okay, well, this harlot does this on a global scale. Okay, and has the masses enchanted, especially here in Babylon the Great, America, man. Okay, well, the whore, all right, she's enchanted. All right, she's made herself appealing. All right, the elites have made this whore appealing. All right, he decked the whore out. Okay, these elites. Okay, but within her cup, which is their influence, is nothing but enchantments and rebellion against the Most High. Okay, and this is why our people are the children of. Okay, verse uh verse 5. It says, "Upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great." Okay, so America is a mysterious, the mystery Babylon the Great, which means that it's on a whole nother level, militarily, economically, okay, enchantments, witchcraft, it's on a whole nother level. All right, this is ancient Babylon, okay, and the Neo Babylonian Empire on steroids. Okay, so the mother of harlots, and abominations of the earth. Okay? The mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. You see? So it says the mother of harlots. All right, a whore. Okay, and abominations of the earth. So this whore that our people are the children of is America, man. Okay? Because it's the American influence, all right, that has our people rebellious and engulfed in all type of idolatry, man. Okay? When you go let's see, oh yeah, Nahum. Look at that Nahum. Then we go back to it. It's the book of Nahum, chapter 3. Okay. All right. It's the book of Nahum, chapter 3, verse 4. It said, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well favored harlot, the mistress of witchcraft that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcraft. Okay, so because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well favored harlot, okay, that well favored harlot is speaking of that same whore, man, America. Okay, the mistress of witchcraft, man, which means what she's master. You know, she because mistress is the feminine way of saying master or lord. Okay, in America, all right, has been the mistress in the earth. You know, like the lords, you know, are the elites. Okay, well, America is their mistress. Okay, she like you know the lady of the house. You know, she will be over the other servants of the house, like America has been over these other nations. Okay, and had got these nations to sell themselves unto whore, all right, unto her to commit whoredoms, man, to commit rebellion and get deep into idolatry and Satanism. Okay, that's why even look at now, a great example, the GCC nations. Okay, these Gulf, these Persian Gulf, you know, these oil rich nations. Okay, they sold themselves to the whore. All right, to be able to benefit with the whore, to get in bed with the whore. Okay, and they've tapped into, all right, the witchcraft. You see, so let's go here. Let's go back to Isaiah. So this is what the Heavenly Father is calling our people the sons of the whore. All right, the sons of the adulterer and the whore. All right, so when you read Isaiah 53 and 3 again, it says, but draw near hither, ye sons of the sorceries, all right, of the sorceress, all right, the seed of the adulterer and the whore. Again, whom do you sport yourselves? Again, whom make you, all right, a wide mouth and draw out the tongue? And are ye not children of transgression and the seed of falsehood? Okay, so you go into our peoples now, they're making mockery. You know, they make wide your mouth and draw out the tongue. This to make mockery. Okay, then now that their culture, their lifestyle of our people is a straight mockery against Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay, then you know they're proud to be alphabet. They're proud to be, you know, adulterers and serial killers. Okay, you know, and whores and harlots. They're proud of these things, man. Our people are in great transgression and they mock the Most High in this transgression, man. You know, that's why the punishment is going to be so severe. Okay, but our people are the seed. Okay, the product of falsehood, man. Okay, under the enchantments of Esau, our people are products of straight falsehood, man. Everything that they believe is falsehood, man. Okay, go verse 5, it says, inflaming yourselves with idols under every green tree, slaying the children in the valleys under the cliffs of the rocks. You know, and Jacob was actually doing this, you know, child sacrifice. Okay, but now uh our people, you know, they spiritually sacrifice, you know, their children to this system, man. Okay, to the whore. Okay, that's why every generation gets worse and worse. They give their children, they train their children up in the ways of the whore. Each generation becomes worse, more degenerate, more satanic. Okay, and it's just all throughout. All right, our people, what they call black culture. This is what black culture is saturated with. This is the cultural norms of black culture, man. Is idolatry, man, wickedness. Okay, we're gonna go into a modern term of idolatry as well. It says, "Among the smooth stones of the stream is thy portion, that they are." It said, "They are thy lot. Even to them hast thou poured out a drink offering. Thou hast offered a meat offering. Should I receive comfort in these? Upon a lofty and high mountain, okay, hast thou set thy bed." Yeah, up in America, man. Okay, because America is that proud and lofty government, okay, in which our people have become proud and lofty. You see, our people, they get to enjoy, these first world, conveniences and benefits. And the more that they tap into wickedness, the more they excel. Okay, so the more comfortable our people become in this society, the more they have to be conformed into the beast. Okay, and our people, everyone is chasing these comfort lifestyles, no, and it causes them to dismiss any morality, man. Okay, even if it's just for some day-to-day comforts. Okay, it causes our people to lose, morality. Okay, to be comfortable here, to chase comforts here, man. Okay, to get in bed with this whore. You see, it says, "Behind the doors also in the post has thou set up thy remembrance, for thou hast discovered thyself to another than me, and are gone up. Thou hast enlarged thy bed, and made thee a covenant with them. Thou lovest their bed where thou sawest it." Yeah, so our people have made an agreement in their minds. Now you have our people that higher up you get, you make actual agreements and blood covenants and sacrifice and rituals. Okay, and the masses of our people, they made a covenant and agreement in their mind. Okay, they like the comforts of this world. They like the comforts of the whore. They love the bed of the whore. You see? So when you keep reading verse 9, it says, "And thou wentest to the king with ointment, and didst increase thy perfumes, and didst send thy messengers far off, and didst debase thyself even unto hell." You see, our people have become debased. Scripture speak about how about people are I planted thee a noble vine, how art thou a degenerate plant unto me. Okay, when you go to Jeremiah 2 and 21, well, Esau, Edom has a major, okay, impact on our people becoming degenerate, okay, to where they debase themselves for the comforts of this world, okay? They debase themselves to chase after, the comforts of the whore. You see, but you look at the results, man, and our people are in the worst position that they've ever been in. Okay, they dysfunctional, all right, satanic, dark, okay, full of violence. You see, against each other, man. This is our people on a very dark, wicked, and violent state, man. But this is the results of the whore. Okay, it said, "Thou art weary in the greatness of thy way, yet saidest thou, there is no hope. Thou hast found the life of thy hand. All right, therefore thou wast not grieved." Okay, matter of fact, let me get this in the NLT, read 10. It just goes into how people, when you go to Isaiah, read Isaiah 40, it's like Isaiah 57 and 10. It says, "You grew weary in your search, but you never gave up. Desire gave you renewed strength, and you did not grow weary, man." Okay, so our people are worn out. Okay, but they still muster up enough, okay, to go after the whore. Our people on the internet crying and, complaining, economy and this and that. Okay, well they said they have renewed strength. All right, and desire because this sea hill, even though you have our people complaining, and you see this sea hill, they're gonna have a renewed desire, a renewed strength to continue on with the whore, man. It says, "Are you afraid of these idols? Do they terrify you?" And they fear Esau, man. Our people in the pandemic showed me something about Jake that they have the ability to obey. All right, because I've seen the most ratchet, out of pocket women. Okay, to the toughest street niggas had their mask on, man, and a lot of them went and got the juice. Okay, and it showed me that Jake feared Esau way more than the Most High. Okay, niggas have the capacity to obey. All right, they just don't have no fear. They obey what they fear, and they fear. Okay, Esau Edom. He can get on TV and put a lab coat on, okay, and say some words and throw out some numbers, man, and niggas get in line. Okay, it said, "Is that why you have lied to me and forgotten me and my words? Is it because of my long silence that you no longer fear me?" Okay, so since the Lord hasn't shook the earth up with major judgment, okay, see the prophets, verbally warning Jake has no effect, on the non-elect. Okay, that doesn't even register to Jake. You see, so because the Most High hasn't shook up the earth in a while, all right, Jake mind is set, to continue after folly. All right, let's go here to Ecclesiastes. Okay, it's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 8 and verse 11. All right, Ecclesiastes 8 and 11 said, "Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil." Okay, so because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. Okay, so because a sentence against an evil work, okay, because judgment doesn't come instantly. All right, Jake, has taken grace as a liberty, all right, to do evil, to become more wicked. Okay, so the mindset, the Lord has 2/3 and they're fully setting them to do evil. Okay, they're locked in. Okay, so when you go from there, go back to Isaiah. So Isaiah 57. All right, Isaiah 57. Okay, we'll go back to the NLT. Isaiah 57 and 12. It says, "Now I will expose your so-called good deeds." Because you have a lot of our people that try to, put on as if they're, righteous, and what you call them internet now, virtue signaling. Okay, it's a thing they call on the internet where you, promote yourself with this, this good, upstanding. Okay, but the Most High knows the works of men. Okay, and judgment is going to expose, the falsehoods of our people that been putting on as well. And said none of them will help you, man. Okay, so this fake humility, this fake righteousness, this fake, integrity that our people have. Okay, well, judgment going to expose that, man. Okay, because the Most High knows, all right, the intent of man. Okay, the intent of His people. You see, people go out their way to try to fool, the masses, and they be into all type of wickedness, man. Okay, all this gonna be exposed, okay, by judgment, man, horrific judgment. You see, so let's go here because I want to get this real quick because this system, okay, is set up based on idolatry, man. This beast system. When you go here, all right, even when you go to the days of the week, okay, it says English days of the week are primarily named after a mix of Norse, all right, Germanic, and Roman deities, okay, which these were two governments, okay, of Esau. And Rome was a major government, one of the seven heads, okay, of the beast. It said inheriting a system that mapped gods to celestial bodies, sun, moon, and five planets. While Romance language kept the Roman names, English replaced Tuesday, Friday with equivalent Germanic gods like Tyr, all right, Woden, Thor, and Frigg, alongside Sun, Moon, and Saturn. Okay, so you go to Saturday, named after what? The sun. Okay, Monday, named after the moon. Tuesday, and this is all the worship of the sun, the worship of the moon, which is off, man. Okay, Tuesday, named after the Norse Germanic god, all right, Tyr, okay, the god of war, who's associated with the Roman god Mars. Wednesday, named for the Norse, all right, Germanic god Odin, okay, who was associated with the Roman messenger god Mercury, okay. Name, it says Thursday, named for the Norse god of thunder, Thor, which is supposed to be the son of Odin, associated with the Roman god, all right, Jupiter. Okay. Friday, named after the Nordic god Frigg, all right, or Frigg or Freya, associated with the Roman goddess of love. Okay. Saturday, okay, which is a straight Satan day, named for the Roman god Saturn. The only day to retain is Roman name, all right, in English. Okay. So just the vibration, okay, of this system is drenched in idolatry, man. So if you're of this system, man, okay, by default, man, you in the spirit of idols, man. Okay, Esau has, okay, saturated the earth, the infrastructure, the days of the week, the months. It's all saturated with idolatry, man. Okay? And if you don't have the spirit, if you're not being built up in the spirit, man, okay, you're being corrupted by idolatry all over the place, man, from every side. Okay? And when you go from here, okay, so I just asked the cultural norms in society, all right, linked to idol worship. It said cultural norms linked to idol worship defined broadly as an intense admiration or veneration of tangible objects, figures, or concepts are deeply embedded in both traditional, right, spiritual practices and modern secular society. These norms often serve to provide focus for devotion, social cohesion, and emotional comfort, while also being critiqued as misplaced priorities. Now, when you go to modern and secular idol culture, it says celebrity and fan culture, modern idol worship is frequently manifested in East Asian and Western idol culture, where fans form, all right, parasocial relationships, one way emotional bonds with celebrities, pop stars, and athletes, man. To have all this affection, all right, and admiration for people you don't know. And you come over to America where celebrities are worshipped. Okay, so celebrities are worshipped. All right, and one thing about an idol, when you would worship an idol in the ancient world, you would take on the characteristics of that idol. Okay, well, you look at our people that worship these celebrities, where they take on, all right, the characteristic of these celebrities. Okay, that's why there's millions of NBA young boys, millions of Cardi B's, okay, Sexy Reds or whoever, Glorilla. There's millions of them, okay? Millions of our people imitate, okay, these celebrities, okay? We're saying these one-way emotional bonds. You love these people to death. You admire these people that don't know you, okay? And these people have been heavily enchanted, okay? Been through all these rituals, and they threw in your face as a way to be. And they only teach you idolatry, man. You look at, these concerts now, there's nothing but a big ritual to Satan. Okay. You look at these concerts, the album covers, and it's just a big ritual to Satan. Okay. It says where fans form parasocial relationships, one way emotional bonds with celebrities, pop stars, and athletes, man. Okay. So you keep going, it says symbolic representation in media. These figures function as idols because they are invested with intense emotional energy, okay? And their images are used to represent ideals of beauty, success, or talent, okay? Because they are invested with intense emotional energy, man, okay? Because Esau make all these celebrities, so much larger than life, okay? As if they're descendants of gods. They become demigods too. You see, people faint, pass out, and get hysterical when they see, all right, these people. Man, you're not supposed to have that reaction, okay? Because a nigga can shoot threes, okay, and then windmill dunk, okay. Nigga played in some movies, and you just hysterical. And you see, that's an enchantment, okay. It said consumerist devotion. This is another heavy one amongst our people. Oh, okay. It says consumer, all right, devotion. Okay. It says the worship of wealth, technology, or consumer goods is another form of modern cultural idolatry, man. Okay. And that's why the ultimate technology is going to be the sea hill. He shall feed you with things, all right, with idols, giving the idols being idle. Okay. That sea hill, man. The worship of wealth. Okay. And our people worship wealth. Okay. It doesn't matter, a person's morals or integrity or what he did, what he stands for. Okay. If someone's wealthy, okay, they're worship, they're pedestalized. Okay. They worship the devil's technology or consumer goods. Okay. In another form of modern cultural idolatry where individuals prioritize the acquisition of stuff to build their ego and security. The acquisition of stuff to build their ego and security, man. Okay, you got our people taking loans to get a purse. Okay, shoes with what they call red bottom. That's these things of worship. Okay, brand names, designer. These things of worship amongst our people, man. Okay, they worship status, and these designers represent status, man. Our people worship status. Okay, who cares of So even here it said work and achievement. It says in many societies, work, career, or success is treated with a level of devotion that surpasses spiritual, all right, or personal life, making it a cultural idol, man. Okay, our people boasting, especially the nigga woman boasting in degrees, and if they got businesses going, and they give their life to these things, man. They boasting their achievements. They have to post every little achievement on the internet, and you see, to where it becomes their center, man. Anything that's your center, that's your idol. Okay, and that's why when you go from here, let's get this, get a few more. Okay, let's go from here. Let's get this in let's get this in the book of Jeremiah. I believe it's at 50. Okay. So let's go here, Jeremiah 50 and 38. It says a drought. All right, matter of fact, sorry, 37. It says a sword is upon their horses, and this is the militaries of America, man. Okay, and upon their chariots. All right, this is speaking of I say America, the military, and America, the land as well, man. Okay, a sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her, which is the landmass of America, man. And they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. Yeah, America gonna be completely emptied out. These missiles are gonna rob America of everything, man. And show you that this war is upon her treasures, man. The economy, America's economy is about to be spoiled, which is gonna be a global collapse. Okay, but it's gonna hurt so hard in America because America, all right, has thrived off their world reserve currency, man. You know, and all these things, are gonna happen in war leading up to the nuclear destruction. Okay, it says a drought is upon her waters, all right, which are these hard times, man, which is scarcity, famine, and they shall be dried up, for it is the land of graven images. They are mad upon their idols, man. People having surgeries to look like these certain celebrities. Okay, they're mad upon their idols. Jesus Christ, Christianity, that's an idol. Idolatry, man. Okay, and our people are mad upon these things, man. And that's why hard times, okay, tribulation, Jacob's trouble, leading all the way up into the nuclear destruction is at hand. Okay? It said, therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there, because it's going to become a desert. America's going to become a desert. The land that's mad upon their idols is going to become a desert, man, emptied out. And the owl shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, okay, because America is known for its lewdness and perverseness as well. And the neighbor cities thereof, said the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein, shall any son of man dwell therein. Okay? It's gonna be, and how was Sodom and Gomorrah overthrown? Through fire. What do you do with a witch? You burn a witch, man. Okay? So let's go from there. All right, back to Isaiah 57, and we'll read, I believe it's verse 13. And Lord, we're part of this number. This is Isaiah 57:13 says, when thou cries, let thy companies deliver thee. Yeah, so you people, you're gonna have to depend on what you believe in, what you obey, what you follow. Okay, Esau is gonna have to deliver you. You see, you're gonna look for Esau to deliver you. That's why you're gonna get to see him. Okay, but you get to see him. Okay, they that make it through the tribulation and Jacob's trouble and get to see him. But the wind shall carry them all away, and that's that nuclear wind. Okay, vanity shall take them, but he that putteth his trust in me shall possess the land and shall inherit my holy mountain, man. Okay, which is going to be delivered. Okay, to be rulers of, all right, the next age. All right, this righteous age, which is going to be ushered in by Yahushua. Okay, this destruction is going to end this age. Okay, and begin the righteous age with Yahushua. And those, all right, that really, that elect, that trust in the Heavenly Father all the way to the end in these times, okay, via Yahweh Shai, where we're going to be delivered. Our Baratazah, man, and we're going to be able to inherit, okay, Jerusalem, man, Israel, rule the earth in righteousness, okay, from their land, okay. So that's the point, just wanted to get into that, Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation to the whole elect. Shalom.